Hey everybody, it's Julie. Welcome to Hello Monday. Today I am sharing a really brilliant idea that I had seen done by No Blank Space on Instagram, and I lost the link for a while and then finally found it again. But I was doing my card based on my memory of what he had done, and I just thought it was so cool I had to share it. So he used the 12-day stamp set from our holiday release, and I'm going to actually cut apart the number from the drum set, and it's right there in the center of the drum set. So I started with an X-Acto knife to get it started, and then I'm going to use these spring-loaded scissors to get in there and trim apart the number 12 from the trap set or drum set. And there you can see how easy it was to use those little tiny blades there to get in there and trim that apart. And I can always mount them back together again if I want to use them together. But in the meantime, it's a lot easier to ink up and stamp with that 12 out of the way instead of trying to mask it off. So I'm also going to stamp the pipe, and both of these were stamped with the Tuxedo Black Memento ink because I'm going to color with Copic markers. So I'm going to go ahead and color the pipe yellow, and you'll see why here after everything's colored. I did what No Blank Space did. I actually added details to make it look like a saxophone, although I think his saxophone turned out much more saxophony than mine did. But anyway, I'm going to try it again because I'm just so enchanted with his idea. So I took some Mr. Huey's and spritzed that in the upper left corner of my base card, and that's just Nina's Solar White that I stamped on and did the spritzing on. And then I'm going to trim out my saxophone while I let that card dry for a while. And if it's not perfectly dry when I'm done trimming out the saxophone, then I can go ahead and zap it with my heat gun or blot it with some clean typing paper. So I'm going to 3D mount my new saxophone here, right there to the left of the trap set. And I just used some foam tape there that was trimmed to fit. And then I'm going to actually add a little bit more embellishment. I'm going to take this foam adhesive. It's got sticky on both sides, and it has liner paper on each side. So I cut out some inline alphabet letters. Those are by Mama Elephant. And I cut those out of the double-sided sticky foam as well as some black cardstock. So now I'm going to take my die-cut foam letters, and remember they're sticky on both sides, and I'm just using a strip of Post-it tape just to hold on to them. And I haven't removed any of the liner papers yet. I'm just going to get these letters lined up pretty much evenly there on that Post-it strip of Post-it tape. And then I'm going to go ahead and remove the liners from the back of the letters so that I can go ahead and use that tape to stick them onto my card where I want them. This way they'll be all nicely lined up. And I'm sure there's other ways you could do this, but this is just kind of what came to my mind. So once I've got those firmly pressed in place, I can pull away the Post-it tape, and then I'm going to remove the liner papers from the front of the letters and just take the die-cut black letters and stick those right over the top because I removed the liner papers and that stuff is sticky on both sides. Those letters are going to stick right over the top, and it gives them dimension and pops them up. And it's actually, it might have been less time consuming to do that than it would have been to try to put little tiny pieces of foam tape on the back of those things. So now I have them all mounted in place. And then I took a scrap of some licorice cardstock and just pounced that with my embossing magic pouch. But you could also use the EK Success powder tool. That works very well too. And then I'm going to ink up the You Rock sentiment from the 12 Days Companion Greeting Set and go ahead and ink that up with Versamark. And then I'm going to white emboss it with some Stampendous Detail White Embossing Powder. I really like this embossing powder for the fine lines of these sentiments because it's not going to obliterate the details. So I preheated my heat gun for about a minute, and then I'm just going to go ahead and very quickly heat that and cut it out into a very narrow strip. And then I'm using my square punch. I've done this before on a recent video where I made kind of an arrow shape. So I'm just using the corner and I threaded it through the interior of that punch and out the other side so I could just punch that arrow part there. And then I'm going to do the fishtail part by slipping it back in there and lining it up one more time. And it looked like I didn't quite get it as short as I needed, so I just lined it back up again and just punched it one more time just to get it just a little bit shorter so it would fit into the space that I wanted it to go on my card base. So now I'm going to add some foam tape to the back of it, but then I wanted to pop it up just a little bit higher than the saxophone, so I'm going to add some scrap pieces there of that double-sided foam, and since it's already sticky on both sides, it's just going to go right on there, and it's just a little bit thinner, but it's going to raise it just slightly above the elevation of the saxophone there. And then I'm going to take my We Are Memory Keepers corner chomper and open that up to the 1/2 inch side and trim off that corner. And then as a finishing touch, I'm going to take some glossy accents and layer that over the top so that my letters are really nice and glossy. And I have to tell you though, later on, I actually stuck my hand in it by accident. I had to add more. So it looks a little bit lumpy bumpy because I stuck my hand in and I had to apply another coat of glossy accents. But I also added it to the saxophone to give it some really nice high gloss. And I added some hand-drawn little musical notes there to complete the whole thing. And I just thought this turned out so clever. And so thanks, No Blank Space, for sharing that awesome idea on Instagram. I love it. Everything's available at ellenhutson.com. And thanks for watching.